Hello everyone. Today we'll be seeing Advanced Java Programming Practical number 21, which is write a program to demonstrate the use of generic servlet as a parameterized servlet. So this is our first servlet program. So there are certain things which we are required to do before executing or before writing a servlet program. So the first thing which we know is we need some kind of server in order to execute a servlet, because servlet is a server program. So the server which we'll be using, the application server you can say, or a web server which we'll be using in order to execute a servlet is a Tomcat, Apache Tomcat server. So we'll be downloading that server, installing that server, and then after starting the server, we'll be creating a servlet and we'll be executing it. But there are certain steps which are required in order to compile this servlet program and in order to run the program. Till now we have executed a Java program in a command prompt. We have compiled there and we have executed there. But here, in case of servlet, the compilation will be done at a command prompt level, but for execution we are required to use a web browser. So first we'll see like what is expected in this program. Here it has been asked to create a applet, so a servlet. So there are two types of servlets, so generic servlet and http servlet. So we can create any of it. We'll be writing a simple applet of simple servlet, I'm sorry, we'll be writing a simple servlet program where we'll be printing hello world. So it is up to us, we can use a generic servlet or a http servlet. So there are several steps basically in order to run this servlet. Is first you need to install the Apache Tomcat. Then you have to create the servlet program, compile it, and you need to keep it at a specific location. Like till now we create a Java program, put it into a folder, then while executing or while compiling we use a set path command in order to compile it and run it. But in case of servlet it is very different. And to see the output, we are supposed to use a web browser. So we'll be seeing all this in detail. But before that, now I'll be showing from where you need to download Apache Tomcat. So just give me a second. So this is a website. Like in Google, when you type Apache Tomcat free download, you'll be directed to this website. Here from this website, you are required to download based on your Windows version. If your Windows version is a 32-bit or if it is a 64-bit, accordingly you have to download. The file which will be downloaded is not a exe file, it is a zip file. So installation practically is nothing. Whatever zip file will be downloading, we have to extract that file and keep it in a OneDrive. So here in my PC, I'll be downloading a 64-bit zip file. Once you click here, the downloading will start automatically. And once it is downloaded, the only thing which you are required to do is to extract. When you extract a folder with the name Apache Tomcat and its version will be created. Everything required to servlet, like the writing the program, executing, everything focuses on that Apache Tomcat folder. So I'll show you what folder will get downloaded. You don't have to execute anything, you just have to simply extract this zip file. So this is what you will be seeing. I have extracted the folder in my E drive, and this is the folder which is created. So this is a folder. Inside this, it has many subfolders like just bin folder like we have in JDK, bin library folder, web apps folder, work, etc. So there are different folders which are already available, but we need to create certain folders for our use. So as you can see, there is a folder called as web apps. Web apps. This is a folder where we'll be creating our program folders, and whatever programs we want to compile or execute will be inside this folder. So go inside web apps folder. Here there are already certain folders which are created, out of which I need to create my own folder. So I have created a folder named as sample. You can give any name to this. So sample is the folder which I have created. Inside this sample folder, we need to do certain things like we need to create web-inf folder, and second thing, we need to write the Java program which we want to execute. Means we want to save the servlet program here inside our folder. Once you compile, you get a class file for a Java program. That class file will be created here, but you need to copy it to some other location also. Like inside web-inf folder, you need to create a subfolder called as classes where you want to put that class file. Okay, just for time being, remember this. And inside web-inf folder, there is an important file which is called as a web.xml. This is the file which actually is needed in order to execute your applet. Okay, so this is the file which is actually needed in order to execute your servlet. So this file can be opened in any notepad, any wordpad, that will be seeing what this file contains. But remember this web.xml is the most important file. So I'll again repeat what you have to create and where you have to create. So this is the extracted folder of my Apache Tomcat. Inside this, it has multiple subfolders and files, but we are interested into one which is web apps. Inside web apps, it has subfolders, but we will create our own folder, and the name which I have given is a sample. So inside this folder, whatever will be done is done by me. So I have created one folder web-inf. This has to be as it is, like you can't change the name. Then I'll keep a file, a servlet program which I want to compile and execute. Then inside web-inf folder, I created a subfolder called as classes, and then there is a file called as web.xml. Now inside the classes folder, we are supposed to keep the class files of the compiled Java program. And web.xml is the must thing which contains some commands, some tags which are required to execute your servlet. Now, so whatever I have created, I have like written in a notepad so that it becomes easy for you to remember. So this is what I have done. Like inside web apps folder, I have created a folder with the name sample. Inside sample folder, I have created another folder web-inf. Inside this folder, I actually have two things. One is a classes folder which contains dot class files, and there is a file which is web.xml. It has certain tags, you can say it has certain tags which are necessary to execute the servlet. Okay, so this is what the background work which is required. Now, before even explaining the program, before even writing a program, there are certain other things which we are supposed to do. So I'll be showing what is the next thing. The next thing which is important is like we need to set certain environment variables. Like till now we have been using a Java, simple Java, and using a bin folder in order to execute the like in order to compile the program or in order to execute the program. But for servlet we are required to set certain environmental variables. So how do we set environmental variables? In order to set the environmental variables, we need to go to the settings of the PC, advanced settings. So I have kept that open. I'll just show you. So these are the settings. I want to go to the settings where I can change the or set the environment variables. So I'll just go to the main window. I'll search for environment variables. Just a second. So this is the this PC advanced settings which contains different links in order to set the environmental variables. So this is the environmental variables. Once I click on this, I am supposed to click on environmental variables, and here we are required to set two variables at the user side. There are two sections, one is the user section and other is the system section. So we will be setting certain user variables. The two main user variables which we need in order to execute a servlet with a Tomcat is class path and a java underscore home. Now look at this java underscore home variable. We need to give the name as it is, java underscore home, but the value is the path of your bin folder, not till bin, like jdk folder, the path of your jdk folder. Like I have jdk installed in my c drive, program files, then java folder, then jdk. So this is the path which I'm supposed to provide for java underscore home variable. And the other important variable which is must in order to execute a servlet is a class path. So the name of the variable is class path and the value is, now there is certain path which is provided here. As I have shown you that Apache folder has many folders. So one folder is library. So I have to take a path till library, and then there is one jar file with the name servlet-api. Like I'll click on the browse file, you'll get it. See this, inside library we have servlet-api, this one. So this is a jar file. So we have to set the path of this variable as till this servlet-api. Once we have set the environmental variables, the next step is start the server. Like as you know, in a client server program also, like the server starts at the beginning and then we compile the program, we run the program. So we are required to start the Tomcat server. So in order to for starting a Tomcat server, you need to go to, just a second, I'll open the folder which has Tomcat. So yes, we are here. So this is my folder which has Tomcat. Now to start it, there is one startup.batch file. So that file is inside a bin folder. So I'll go inside a bin folder. Now we try to locate a file, startup. Look at this startup.batch file. I need to double click on this, and some command prompt window will open, which indicates that your server is started. I have already kept the server open. This is the opened server. Now, once like Tomcat is downloaded, we have created a folder, we have set the environmental variables, we have started the server. Now the next thing comes is write a program, compile it and run it. So first we'll be seeing the program itself. So the program is like we always write in a notepad. So this is a program. The program name itself like suggests this is a very basic servlet program. Hello servlet, hello world. So instead of like using a generic servlet, we here have used a HTTP servlet. So at the top there are certain packages like IO package, servlet package, and like we are using a HTTP servlet, so servlet.http package. One thing which you need to keep in mind is like you don't write java.servlet, you need to write javax.servlet. So that is the most different thing. So it is again like a usual servlet program. It has its own life cycle. So we have written public class hello world extends HTTP servlet. As like applet has an init method, same way servlet has an init method. We have written the init method. Within an init method, we have initialized one string with the name message, and the value is hello world. Means this is what I want to print in my servlet. HTTP servlet required to have do get or do post. It is mandatory. Either your program should have a do get method or it should have a do post method. My program here has a do get method. So the arguments are request and response, HTTP request and HTTP response. This method throws two types of exceptions. One is the servlet exception, other is the IO exception. So in either of the cases where like something goes wrong with the server or something goes wrong with the hardware, these two exceptions are thrown. Now, as it is of my first servlet, so I'll be simply printing the message hello world. So in order to print this message hello world, I need to create an object of printer writer, print writer out, response dot get writer. Now using this out object, I'll be printing this out dot println in double quotes. I'm simply printing the message variable, but with the help of h1 tag. H1 tag, I suppose you know, it is a tag which like gives you a, it is heading tag. Basically, it is a heading one tag. So whatever is written between the starting and the closing of this tag will be printed in a big font, and in a bold format. We have certain heading tags like H1, H2, H3. We can use any, which like increases the font size of a text and makes it bold. So that is the another method of a servlet, which is do get. Same we have a method destroy, where actually I have written nothing because I don't want to do any specific action on the destroy of a servlet. But in the background, the destroy method will releases all the unused memories and closes all the connections. So that is a simple servlet program, HTTP servlet program, where we have printed a hello world in a do get method. The do get method has two arguments, request and response. And in init method, we just have initialized the variable, and that's it. Now, you'll say this is a program, like how to compile it and how to run it. So for that, we again need to go to that folder where we have saved this file. I've already told you we need to save every file which you want to execute as a servlet in that folder of web apps. So we'll be going again there. So this is a folder inside web apps. I have my folder named sample. Inside that, I have my file hello world. Now you want to execute this. Okay. So go to this address bar. Simply write cmd. When you do this, command prompt will appear with the path set till here. Now I'll show you the command prompt. So this is the command prompt. Now simply I have to write javac hello world dot java. Now the program will compile and the class file will be created. Now the class file is created here, but we want to keep it somewhere else. Here is the class file, but we want inside this folder. So I'll copy this file. What we'll do, we'll copy this file, this class file, we'll copy it. Go to web-inf, go inside classes and paste it. So you are required to do this. If you don't put your class file here, servlet will not get execute. Okay. Now, still there is one more step which is required to execute a servlet, which is web.xml file. So I'll be showing the web.xml file. I'll be opening this and will be telling what you are required to write inside that file. So here is a file. So this is the web.xml file. Now there is something which we need to add to this file, and that is this portion. This is the portion which you are supposed to write in your web.xml file. There are basically tags which are related to servlet. So this is the servlet tag and this is the closing of servlet tag. Inside this you need to use two tags, which is servlet name and servlet class. What is the program? Our program is hello world. So what is the name of servlet? Hello world. What is the class file name? The class file name again is the hello world. So I'm writing the same name at both the places. Then I close the servlet tag. Then there is the servlet mapping tag. Again, you have two subtags inside it. One is servlet name. Name is hello world. Other is URL pattern. Like how you will call this file, because server can have multiple servlet. So by which name you want to call this servlet? Like run this servlet. So the name I have written the same hello world, but here you are required to put a slash. This is something you will be needing at the time of running this, executing this applet servlet. So web.xml file contains servlet tag, servlet mapping tag, servlet name tag and class tag, also a URL pattern tag. The name, the class will be same as your file name. The only thing, in URL pattern, give a slash and write any name by which you want to refer to this servlet. I have used the same hello world name. So you need to save this file before executing. Now you'll say how to execute this servlet. We have done so many steps. So the simplest way is to open a web browser. So in order to execute a servlet, you need to go to the web browser. So I'll open the web browser for you. So this is the web browser. Now what you are supposed to write? The first thing you need to check is whether the Apache Tomcat server is running or not. So in order to check, you are supposed to write in the address bar as localhost colon 8080. So this kind of page should open. Okay, you can see a cat over here. So this is it. This indicates your Tomcat server is running. Now once the server is running, you need to execute your program. Now where is my program? My program is under the folder sample. So what we'll do, colon 8080 के बाद we'll put a slash and we'll write the folder name. S capital था, so S capital sample. Now I have told you there is a URL pattern, like how I want to refer to this servlet. So I'll put a slash, we'll write hello world. In the same way I have written in the URL pattern tag. So once I press enter, it will show the output. Now I can say see a hello world in a bold and in H1 font size. So this is not as simple as executing an applet, but still with practice, with general setup, you can write the servlet programs and you can execute. So I suggest you better write down the initial setup requirements, like from where to download a Apache server, what folders you need to create, what environmental variables you need to set, like which folder and what you should write in web.xml, and then create the servlet programs, compile it and run it. So this was a simple HTTP servlet which has been executed with the help of Tomcat server.